In this session, we talk about the very basic concepts about heat exchangers and we talk about the different types of heat exchangers. At the end, we'll look at some commonly used heat exchangers for the process and chemical industries. Now, to start with, what you need to know about heat exchangers, especially in the context of this course. Now, typical questions you might need to answer for heat exchangers are what type of heat exchangers you need in a new process. So you should be able to select a proper type of heat exchanger for a particular process. Then you need to determine what's the size of the heat exchanger that you need. Now the size will be in terms of physical dimensions as well as the heat transfer area and heat transfer coefficients. So that brings to the next point. What are the heat transfer coefficients? And it will depend on the fluid that will be using, the flow rates, flow conditions, as well as the temperature differences. Now those three are when you are talking about selecting and designing a new heat exchanger for a process. However, you may have to answer some questions for existing heat exchangers as well. For example, you need to determine whether a heat exchanger is working properly, or how much fouling can the heat exchanger withstand before the performance is significantly degraded. And for an existing heat exchanger, you may need to determine whether that performance degradation has already taken place. Now, what is a heat exchanger? So in the simplest term, heat exchanger does exactly what its name refers to. It exchanges heat between two streams and thus heating one and cooling the other. Now these streams can be liquid, can be gas, or one can be either liquid, one can be gas, or they can involve some sort of phase change, and all different combinations with their state can be there in the operation of a heat exchanger. Typically, the streams are fluids. There are involvement of some solid particles in heat exchange process. However, those are mainly as heat source or heat sink. So when you're talking about the streams, we'll be talking about mainly the fluid streams. Now, what causes the heat transfer? Thermal energy of a material is related to its temperature. So higher the temperature, greater its thermal energy. So when two bodies are at different temperatures, thermal energy transfers from the one with higher temperature to the one with lower temperature. So the driving force for heat exchange is the difference in temperature. Now to recall, there are three modes of heat transfer, namely the conduction, convection, and radiation. So conduction, it refers to the transfer of heat through solids and stationary fluids. So for fluids along a solid wall can be stationary and transfer the heat through the conduction mechanism. The convection, it uses the movement of fluids to transfer heat. It is one of the dominant mechanism of heat transfer in process and chemical industries. The radiation does not need a medium. The heat is transferred as electromagnetic radiation, and typically it happens at high temperatures. So any exchange in energy between bodies will have to happen using one of these three mechanisms or combination of two or all. However, in typical heat exchanger design, you'll see that the conduction and convection are the dominant mechanisms, and in many cases we'll ignore the radiation term. Now regarding the types of heat exchangers, there are mainly three types. One is what is called this direct contact. The second type is regenerator, and third type is recuperator. We'll look at just some basic aspect of these three types of heat exchangers. However, we'll focus on the main type, namely the recuperator, that's widely used in process and chemical industries. Now in direct contact heat exchangers, the hot and cold streams are brought together in direct contact, meaning that there will be no barrier between these two streams. This happens when one stream is solid or entrained with a solid or vapor liquid system. It may happen also for liquid systems when the liquids are immiscible. So typically this type of heat exchangers are used when the two streams are at two different phases or two liquid phases which are immiscible. So this is a typical configuration of a direct contact heat exchanger. You say that the hot or inert gas containing the vapor comes in, whether it goes out, cooling liquid is coming from the top and going down from the bottom. Because the gas with vapor having a lower density, it goes up, the liquid having a higher density goes down, and while they are inside the heat exchanger, heat exchange take place between these two. A common example is the cooling tower, where water comes from the top and air goes from the bottom. When the air goes towards the top, it comes in contact with the water and evaporation of the water takes place. And the vapor goes to the air, and thus in transferring the latent heat for evaporation, the water gets cooled down. So the cooling tower is one example of the direct contact heat exchanger. The second type is called this regenerator. So in regenerators, heat exchange take place in two steps. First, the hot gas come in, and when it passes through the solid bed, the temperature of the solid is increased. And when this hot gas passes through the solid bed, the operation is run in a different way. Cold gas come from the other side, and it's then passed through the solid bed. So the bed is at a higher temperature, so it transfers its energy to the cold gas. So the first step, the solid materials is heated by the hot gas, and in the second step, the thermal energy is transferred to the cold gas from the hot solids. And while one of these bed goes through this cycle, another bed goes through the opposite cycle, meaning that when hot gas is passing through this bed, on this bed cold gas is going through. So that's why a continuous operation is maintained. So alternatively, hot gas goes either from this bed or this bed, and the cold gas goes through this bed or through this bed. The operation is continuously run. So a sand tank, a solid tank, is used for the storage of heat. For this case, which is further transferred to the cold stream. Recuperators are the most common heat exchanger in the industries. And for recuperator, the hot and cold fluids are separated by a wall. So in direct contact heat exchangers, the hot and cold stream directly come into contact with each other. However, for the recuperators, there is a wall between them, and the heat transferred from the hot stream to the cold stream through the wall. So there is conduction heat exchange for this process. Now we have known different types of heat exchangers. So for a particular operation, the factors that affect the design are the cost, efficiency, the size, meaning how much space is required, the materials, maintenance, and ease of construction. Now definitely understandable that the cost is one of the main factor. However, heat transfer efficiency is also another determining factor. And in many cases, the space become important simply because the type of overall system that we are thinking about. For example, there are heat exchangers inside your car. So for that case, we need a heat exchanger that can meet the need, however, should be small enough to fit within the given space. The materials became important simply because many fluid may be corrosive, or there may be other factors that will require special type of materials. And maintenance also is important. If the heat exchange is a part of a big system, how often do you need the maintenance? Because in many cases, due to the maintenance, the entire unit needs to be shut down. So that's an important issue. And finally, the ease of construction. Like in many cases, complex heat exchangers are avoided in favor of simple design. Now for mainly the chemical and process industries, the commonly used heat exchangers are what is called this double pipe heat exchanger, spiral heat exchanger, the finned and compact heat exchangers, and finally the shell and tube heat exchanger. Now the double pipe heat exchanger, as the name suggests, it's made of concentric pipes. One fluid flows through the outer annulus and the other flows through the inner pipe. So double pipe heat exchangers are operated as either parallel flow or counter current flow. So in parallel flow, the streams goes in the same direction. This one is an example of counter flow, meaning that one liquid is going in this direction while another liquid is going through this direction. If both liquid goes through this direction, meaning if this stream was coming from here and going through this direction along with this one, that would make a parallel or concurrent flow. Now to meet the requirement for heat exchange surface area, double pipe heat exchangers are often designed in this way. So here just the design is for compactness of the equipment. Two long concentric pipes, those are bended in some way to fit within a given area, and this construction is done. Next, the spiral heat exchanger. These are constructed from sheet of metal wound in a circular fashion. So you can see here there are chambers for hot and cold liquid alternatively. So this one is for cold one, this one is for hot one, this one is for cold one, this one is for hot one, and it's constructed in a way that the cold liquid goes through the stream and comes out. For a countercurrent flow, the hot stream is coming from there and passing through each of these spiral sections and coming out from here. So these are some construction of the what is called these spiral heat exchangers. Again, these type heat exchangers are easy to fabricate, and that's why are used in many operations. For heat exchanger where a large surface area is needed within a given space, the finned heat exchangers are often used. Also, the finned heat exchangers are used when the heat transfer coefficient between the two streams are different. So when you need a large surface area within a given space, typically finned heat exchangers are used. Also, finned heat exchangers are common when a gas stream is involved, because for the gas stream typically the heat transfer coefficient is low. So these fins, they increase the heat transfer surface area. A typical example is the home heating system, where inside the pipe there is the hot water coming in. On outside, the air takes the heat from the pipe surface. As the heat transfer coefficient for the air is low, large surface area is created by putting fin on the tube surface. Using fin, many compact designs are used. For example, for inside car or for many domestic equipment, there is a need for compact heat exchangers, and there are different designs available for compact heat exchangers. Depending on the requirement, many different structure can be constructed. The shell and tip heat exchanger might be the most common heat exchanger in the process and chemical industry. It provides large heat transfer area, and it can be operated at high pressure and can be made of very different materials depending on the fluid streams involved. Now you can see here the shell and tip heat exchanger are simply a bundle of tubes placed within a large shell. And because there are this many tubes there, you can maintain a large volumetric flow rate of the fluids. Also, that creates a large heat transfer surface area. So heat transfer takes place from the hot liquid to the cold liquid through the tube surfaces. Do remember that the heat transfer area involved here are only on the tube side. The shell is just containing the tube bundles. One liquid flows through the tube, another liquid flows over the tube. We'll see details about the shell and tip heat exchanger in another session. Now, shell and tip heat exchanger can be constructed in many different ways, which is called this multi-pass. We call it 1-2 shell and tip heat exchanger. 2-4 shell and tip heat exchangers are shown here. 1 refers to the shell pass and 2 refers to the tube passes. So for here you can look at the liquid goes through the tubes in one pass and then comes and go through another pass. So through the tube bundle, liquid is going twice from the one end to the other end of the heat exchanger. On the other hand, on the shell side, liquid is coming from here and then going through there and exiting from here. So for the shell, it's one pass, and for the tube is 2 passes. Compared to the 2-4 shell and tip heat exchanger, here you can see that the liquid in the shell side also makes 2 passes over here, meaning that it goes from here to there, through here, and again another pass and going out. On the other hand, for the tube side, we have the liquid coming in from here, completing 1 pass and completing 2 pass, completing 3 pass and completing 4 pass, and then going out. So this is 2-4 heat exchanger, meaning 2 shell passes and 4 tube passes. And for the first one, it's 1-2 heat exchanger, meaning 1 shell pass and 2 tube passes. Now on the shell side, the passes are created by these baffles over here. So the baffles serves different purposes. For example, it makes sure that all of the tubes are in contact with the shell side fluid. Also, it gives some structural support. So these baffles can be constructed in different ways. So here it shows some sort of this called this segmental. This is segmental with strip. This is disc and donut. And this is orifice. So for segmental one, simply you have a baffle out there, maybe up to 75% of the shell diameter. And for segmental strip, there are 2 and the middle part is open. So you can see here 1 and 2 and the middle part is open, and then there is another here. This is making sure that the fluid goes through all the way, and then another pair is here and inside is open. The disc and donut type is again, it goes throughout the radius, however in the middle it's open. Also then this structure and this structure is placed alternatively to make sure that the shell side fluid passes through the surface of all tubes. And for the orifice type, the narrow channels are created between the tubes and the baffles, and the fluid flows through those channels. So in summary, we have talked about the different types of heat exchanger, and we have covered some very basic aspects about the heat exchangers. Now in next session, we'll talk about the construction of the shell and tip heat exchangers in details.